Today we have a Bicentennial vintage clock. Um, I don't know what you refer to these clocks as, in terms of mechanical clocks, wind up clocks. This has been in the family since new, since 1976. This was actually a wedding gift at the time to my parents. And this has a lot of sentimental value as it sat atop the mantle in our family room for years, decades. In fact, even before we had a mantle to sit it upon, it was always in the family room. And as an adult, way later after I became an adult, I kind of um, inherited this as as I've moved on and grew up. It kind of came in my possession. And while I don't have an ideal spot for this clock at this time, I do enjoy it and I still keep its presence. And I find it really interesting because my parents got married the same year as the bicentennial of the country. I have no idea if this is a rare clock. I have no idea of its value. Not that I'm really looking to determine what its value is, because it really has priceless value to my family, to myself, really. Here you can see it is a little dusty. It probably needs a little polish. It had been sitting kind of in storage for a little while, and then I brought it to this location with an idea of using it. Was using it for a long time, and then periodically I do work from this location, and because it has an audible chime, it just made it difficult being on work from home, kind of with this going chiming in the background, or not even in the background, chiming very close to you. So I thought we'd take a look at this, wind it up, get it going, and you can maybe perhaps on camera hear what it sounds like once it's functioning. So I'm gonna open up the cabinet here, and you can see, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of dust, and it's not just dust that you just kind of wipe off. You need like pledge or some type of wood cleaner to bring it up. But you can see the Liberty Bell, and you can see where it's marked Bicentennial, and you can see 1776, 1976. So I think it's super cool in terms of being a vintage piece. And I think what's even cooler is, unlike much of the things in my collection of vintage items, this is something that's been here since new. A lot of the stuff in my vintage collection of different, fans and whatnot, it's usually a while it's a vintage item, but it usually represents the original vintage item that has long since been gone. So again, it has character here because it's been with the family for so long. Now, if there's any clock people out there, if I am doing something incorrectly here, some respectful, uh, I wouldn't say criticism, but constructive advice in the comments would be very welcomed, because no one in my family is a clock person, nor do I think this has gone to a clock place, if you will, for service. I don't know how you service these. I'm sure I could find a video on YouTube to see what what one might do to service these things. So again, if there's something I'm doing incorrectly, would love to know about it so I can correct that and continue to preserve this. So the original key is still here. And then it has I guess you call this the pendulum here, which I believe hooks on. And I think when this clock had been moved in the past, I think my parents had disconnected that and just laid it inside so it doesn't get damaged. And then the piece for the chime is just back behind there. Not sure if that's coming through on the camera. Probably just barely. So it's back here. for the chimes, and then you just got your typical clock. Now, I believe the story goes with this. It was a wedding gift from my parents, from a friend, I think, of my father's. I think this came from a store that, I don't want to say Macy's, but I do, something like that. So I get the sense that these were mass produced, commemorative at the time. I don't think this was something like a clockmaker made in some shop somewhere and it was specially made. But if anyone knows anything about these, again, would love to hear it. Maybe to have some more background story to it would be kind of cool. So we're gonna take the key and we're gonna wind it up. And again, I don't know what particular order to do this in. The only thing that my father used to say to me when I was young is don't wind it up all the way, right? When it starts to get tight, just stop. So I'm not going to wind it up all the way. If that's an urban myth, feel free to correct me. So it's just starting to get a little snug now, so I'm gonna stop. Okay. I am not sure which goes for the minute hand or the hour hand, if that's what you call them. This one's definitely much snugger. So we'll just only give it a few cranks. All right, so we'll just give it a few cranks, pull out the key, put it back in the cabinet. Now, when it comes to setting the time, I was just told or shown, don't know if it's correct, I think it's the only way of doing it, is moving the hands clockwise to get to the proper time. So I'm going to do that. Currently, right now, it is 5 of 2. So, unfortunately, the hands are on top of one another here. So I think you can hear it chime, obviously, as I go. Well, I just went a little too far, but I do think there's a little issue with the hands here. Maybe, yeah, that's not going to move. Okay, so notice how it's just slightly past 2 o'clock, but yet the time shows 5 of 2. I don't know what's going on. Again, this probably needs some type of service. At one point, the hands, like, you probably can't tell on camera, but the hour is kind of bent out a little bit, because at one point, when I guess the minute hand crossed over, they got stuck on one another. So I think somebody just slightly bent it out so the minute hand can go by. If anyone can give advice on this, I don't want to go tearing into this thing and not knowing what I'm doing and cause some damage. That would be helpful. So also the thing I was told too is once you wind the clock, just give it a little tap there to get it going. And you can probably hear it on camera. So what I like, and maybe it comes through, maybe it doesn't, it comes through, looks like. You can see Independence Hall here. Super cool. Super cool in my mind. Even if this is, for what it's worth at its time, a mass-produced clock or whatever it is, but it's good quality. I mean, this wood is solid. But then again, we know most things made back in the 70s were solid. Even throwaway items in the 70s were solid. So if you listen for a minute, you can hear the clock ticking. And what to me is just as nostalgia as the actual clock itself is the sound of it ticking, or whatever you want to call it, is that sound. Because I remember sitting in the living room of my parents as a teenager or younger, or the family room, and it would be silent. It'd be at night, time for bed, or nobody would be in the room. You'd just be passing through the room. One thing that was always constant was that sound. I've heard that sound for 30, 40 years, always. And another kind of funny story is, I remember as a teenager, all boys, occasionally do something that their parents aren't happy with and they might be in trouble. I remember sitting in the living room or the family room on the couch and my parents speaking to me about whatever I did, staying out too late or whatever it was. And you know, when you get a talking to by your parents and there's tends to be pauses between people speaking, dramatic pauses, you know, why were you out so late? And you know, you're searching for the answer, so there's like a 10-second pause. I still remember during that awkward silence hearing this clock in the background, just ticking away as I'm searching for answers of explaining why I stayed out late. So again, this has some definitely some value, some meaning. If this clock could talk, the things that it witnessed, the conversations, the fun, the great memories in that family room, the laughter, you know, the holidays, the few times I got a talking to, really cool, really cool. So I'm really happy to have this piece, and I hope in a couple locations that I'm at that I can find a nice spot in like a living room area so I can kind of replicate that sound for myself. I have kids, and it would be interesting for them to kind of hear that as well. So again, anyone who can tell me anything about this clock, maybe you have one similar to it. Maybe you are a collector. Maybe you're just a person who enjoys antique type clocks. Comment. I would love to hear whether it's how I just handled this clock or something about this clock's background, maybe where it was manufactured, just by the style or whatever. That would be great. You did just hear it chime, but typical, just to tell you how it works, on each hour it chimes for the number of hours, and then for half past it does the single chime. Oh, I think it's 2 o'clock. There we go. Well, it is 2 o'clock. It chimed more than 2 times. So that's interesting. So something's up with it. Maybe the hands are mixed up. I wasn't counting the chimes there, but it sounded like it chimed 3 or 4 times. So it thinks it's later than it is. So clearly this clock needs a little work, but it would be the first time in its, 48 years that it's been serviced, if you will. So please like, subscribe. This channel's about kind of vlog type but also like to do a lot of reviews on older items such as fans, heaters, vacuum cleaners. This just happens to be, this might be a one-off with this clock. Although I do have a more modern clock digital clock that we'll be taking a look at. Please, again, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching my video, and we'll see you next time.